Hello everyone and welcome. This is Cliff and welcome to my channel, Cliff's Dark Gems. Today we're going to be looking at my February TBR, and that includes horror, mysteries, suspense, thrillers, serial killers and so much more. Stay tuned. These books are in no particular order, but the first book is a reread, and that is Cain, Heartsick. Now this is a book that I read a long time ago. It's a little bit hazy in my memory, and this is part of a series, so I'm determined to read this again so that I can go through the proper order of the series. Now Heartsick is pretty much labelled a crime thriller, although you could call it a psychological horror considering the dark nature of the deeds. The story is about a sick, twisted, but beautiful woman, Gretchen, who just happens to be a serial killer. She captures a detective named Archie, brutally tortures him psychologically and physically for 10 days, and then inexplicably lets him go and gives herself over to the police. 2 years later, Archie is troubled, he's wearing the scars, and he is on another case. A killer is targeting teenage girls. And the only way he can track down the serial killer is to get the help from the person he least wants to go to, and that is Gretchen. I'm really looking forward to rereading this novel, as it's described on the front cover as up there in the same league as Silence of the Lambs for sheer heart-thumping excitement. So this should be a great read again. Next up we have Stephen King, Joyland. Now this is part of this box set that I bought, and it's so beautiful. I love the cover art. This is the hard case crime novels, basically looking at some modern writers and also some writers back in the 50s and 60s with crime noir, and it's been lovingly re-rendered, beautifully brought back to life with the cover art and so on, and this is absolutely gorgeous. There are 2 other books in the series. I'll get to them later. But Joyland really appeals to me. I've been wanting to read it for a long time, so this is my chance this month. Okay, I'm just going to read the back of the novel to give you an idea of what it's about. A college student, Devon Jones, took the summer job at Joyland, hoping to forget the girl who broke his heart. But he wound up facing something far more terrible: the legacy of a vicious murder, the fate of a dying child, and dark truths about life and what comes after that would change his world forever. Now, first of all, the fact that this takes place in a carnival instantly makes me very excited, because I absolutely love carnivals. Anything to do with carnivals in books, I am there. So I am thoroughly looking forward to this read. The next is a massive bestseller and a movie just been made about the book. I don't know actually when the movie came out, but that is We Need to Talk About Kevin. Now this apparently is a very uncomfortable read. I have actually been avoiding it for quite a while, but I have to dive in there, I have to take a chance. Apparently you just can't stop reading, it's gripping. It's about a boy who is a massacre at the school. He basically kills 7 of his classmates, he kills a cafeteria worker, and he kills a teacher who was trying to befriend him and help him. But as far as I'm concerned, this book is not so much about the boy, the killer, but about his mother, who is trying to come to terms with what has happened in the past, and is trying to come to terms with her own role in her son's murders. And I think she, in a way, she blames herself. She sees herself as a bad mother, and that's pretty much all I know about the story. So I'm going into this one blind. But as I say, I have heard it's a very uncomfortable read, but I'm looking forward to it. Next we have Cold Moon Over Babylon by Michael McDowell. Now Michael McDowell is the author of The Elementals and The Amulet, and I found them both to be very scary gothic tales. This is another gothic horror as well, and it takes place in a small town. And now that is one thing Michael McDowell is really good at. painting pictures in a small town, the people, the atmosphere. He does that wonderfully well. It is a story of murder and revenge. The murderer drops his latest victim is a young girl, and he deposits her into this river along with other victims. And apparently there's a supernatural element to the story where this creature in a river gets revenge. So it's murder and revenge. That's as much as I know about this tale. Next, I'm continuing with Ed McBain, and this is continuing my journey into the 87th Precinct Mystery Series. The first one that I'm going to read is Killer's Choice, and this is actually, I think, quite a rare little penguin paperback. I think I read somewhere in the front that it's not available in the United States or Canada, which I find kind of surprising, but this looks like a great read. I'm going to read the back of this one, Killer's Choice. Annie Boone lay lapped in blood, alcohol, and splintered glass, face down in the liquor store, holes in her too, 4, drilled with a pistol. In addition, she was dead. As Steve Carella forked over the ground, conflicting facts came crawling out. Employer, ex-husband, lover, boyfriends, girlfriend, they all placed the redhead somewhere different on the moral spectrum. Was she ultra good or infra bad? I'm not sure if that's a word. And if all suspects had sound alibis, one for each suspect, who killed Annie Booth? Sounds like another great murder mystery from Ed McBain. Okay, this is part 6 in the Ed McBain series, and it's Killer's Payoff. And I'm going to read the back here as well. Blackmail you do alone. The more people you know, the more ways you've got to split. Cy Kramer was a loner and business was good, until a .300 savage closed his account. There were no flowers at the funeral and no mourners, and worse for Corella and Cotton Hawes. Oh, I think this is a new addition to the series, another detective, and for Cotton Hawes there were no clues. Okay, so this is my next excursion into the 87th Precinct series. Okay, and this is a book from my last video that I did not finish in January. That is Beyond Band of Brothers. Now, if any of you have not seen Band of Brothers, a miniseries, I highly recommend it. Even if you're not interested in war, I think it will still grip you. It is more like a human drama. Yes, it's set during World War II, but it is a very powerful piece of filmmaking. I know Tom Hanks is involved, and it's about Easy Company. And the commander of Easy Company is Major Dick Winters. And so this story is told through his eyes of what actually happened during the war, and obviously they were victorious. Give it a go. Band of Brothers. The other book I didn't finish last month was a horror short story collection by Robert McCammon, Blue World. And I'm determined to get through these stories so that I can at least present my favorites to you. Another idea I've got for this month is to do a couple of top 10 videos on short stories. Maybe the top 10 or top 20 Stephen King short stories, maybe a top 20 horror short stories other than Stephen King. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I think this would be a great idea. Next we have Clive Barker, The Scarlet Gospels. Now, Clive Barker is a magical author. He's probably my second favorite author after Stephen King. And I've read just about everything that he has published, with the exception of some graphic novels, or actually most of his graphic novels, and some of his later more obscure work. But everything in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, actually only started in the 80s with Books of Blood, I've read. Most of my favorites are Weirworld, that you can see behind me, The Great and Secret Show, and Magica. These are more dark fantasy stroke horror novels, but I'm determined to give this a go. It's had mixed reviews, but I'll make up my own mind when I read it. In this novel, private investigator Harry D'Amour does battle with Pinhead. Now, Harry D'Amour is known in a number of his earlier works, I think The Great and Secret Show, and Pinhead from Hellraiser, and they do battle, and apparently this novel also takes place in hell itself. So Clive Barker recreates this image of hell. Look, he's incredibly imaginative. As I said, this book has got mixed reviews. In fact, I've heard some people say it's awful, but I will make up my own mind. And even if it's not his best work, I'll forgive him, because he's just left such a legacy and a body of work behind him that all of it probably is in my top 20. So I'm looking forward to trying this book. My final read for this month is going to be a book that I mentioned in my previous video, and that is Zombie by Michael Slade. Now, you've got to love this cover. It's so horrific and gory. I'm really looking forward to this. Now, from what I see, this is quite a complex plot, so I'm going to read the sleeve for you. A murderous battle against overwhelming odds in Africa over 100 years ago, and a crazed killer on a mission of primal vengeance today. Bloody age-old rituals of unspeakable mutilation and their grisly echoes in a series of atrocities in the bustling modern city. The invocation of sinister spirits from the Shadowlands on the borders of life and death, and a heroic lawman on trial for an especially bestial and sickening slaughter. Ooh, sounds like fun. Once again, the detectives Robert de Klerk, Zink Chandler, and their colleagues in the Special X unit of the RCMP, I think it's the Mounted Police, find themselves up against a fiendishly complex case of violent death and occult terror, rooted in a nightmare past of blood and butchery. Here is a story of homicidal madness and uncanny dread to bring the dead themselves to screaming wakefulness. What intrigues me most about this book, I think, is actually the fact that it takes place in Africa, and that sounds very, very interesting, being a South African myself. I'm looking forward to reading this book, but it does seem like quite a gruesome read, probably my most gruesome for this month, who knows, but I'm looking forward to it. Okay everyone, I hope you enjoyed that. That is my TBR for this month of February. Let me know in the comments below if there's any of these books that you have read that you would recommend that I read before other books that maybe I should give some kind of priority to. And please be sure to like and subscribe, really help me out, and see you next time. Keep those pages turning. Cheers.